What is going on, crypto peeps? Hope you guys are having a great day. Obviously, it's another down day in the market, another down day for Bitcoin. Bitcoin continues on its downward slump, its downward steady slump. We'll go over the technicals on the daily charts, as well as I wanted to discuss why, if we take a look at the higher level view, right, if we back up and take a look at the weekly view, which we'll do after this, we'll go over why this might be the new normal for Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is actually trading in a sideways pattern overall, as opposed to our perceived notion that Bitcoin is currently in a slump. So let's just take a look at the daily chart real quick. So you'll see that, you know, we have this downtrend resistance line, and before March 6th, we thought that we were on an uptrend that obviously has since been broken. This green line actually is no longer valid. It really doesn't mean anything. It just tracked this short uptrend from, you know, beginning of February until a few days ago, but currently it's been broken, and we've had plenty of confirmation that this trend no longer exists. So we can actually get rid of this trend right here. Now, this is the downtrend resistance. Obviously, when we thought that we were on an uptrend, we broke the downtrend resistance line, but the news of the SEC, as well as the massive sell-offs, and you could see that's confirmed here by this volume, but the news stories of the massive sell-offs of a few Bitcoin whales, as well as the low trading volume in terms of buys. Like, you could see that we've been pretty dormant since that bull run in December. This right here is like a dead zone in terms of volume. And then here you see obviously the massive sell-offs. So the low overall buy volume, as well as this massive sell-off in the last few days, coupled with the SEC news, or the impending regulation from the SEC, has caused this downshift in Bitcoin and this downtrend in Bitcoin. So now you can see that we are back in this downtrend channel. Here's our resistance that we broke just momentarily, but now we are back under it. And here is the support. We also see that we completed, or not completed, but we're on the way to completing a possible 5-3 Elliott wave correction. So here are the first 5 impulse waves of the Elliott wave. These are already confirmed, right? Because these are already played out. So we thought that we were on a bullish uptrend, and we were. And then here is where the events, the few events that we just discussed, took place, and now we are on a correction. This is the first correction wave. Obviously, we don't know the extent of the B and C correction, or if there will even be a B and C correction, right? Depending on what happens, and we can set certain indicators to try and get market confirmation on what will happen next. Depending on what will happen next, we might not even have a B or C correction. We might, obviously, the market can go in two directions, or can trade sideways. Now, what can cause that to happen? Obviously, you know, barring any significant news or any significant, you know, fundamental event that the market gives us that can't be charted, just looking at the chart, if we break below, it seems like this fib level, right, this 0.618 fib level, is currently what we're bouncing off of. So if we break below this, and you can see that it also coincides with previous support levels back here that we saw in mid-February. If we break below this, then, you know, we could target the 0.786 fib level as the next level that we're going to drop to, and this is right around previous support levels that we saw towards the beginning of February, as opposed to the middle of February. Now, if you're wondering why we have multiple fibs, or why this fib looks different than you know, other traders' fibs, or even different than fibs that I've drawn before, well, a Fibonacci retracement is not something exact. It's not, you know, when people first start trading, they think that, oh, you have to start, you know, right at the top and end it at the bottom. No, it depends on what you're tracking. It depends on the increment of the chart. It depends on what you're looking at. For me, this double top right here, right, is the major resistance line right now. You could see that it's confirmed also by, you know, if you go all the way back to end of January here, this is our major resistance line, right? We see that the double top forming in the last few weeks, as well as going all the way back to the end of January. This is our major resistance line. So you can actually start a fib retracement from here if you're trying to measure a retracement back up to this major resistance line, or you're trying to measure a retracement, attempting to establish resistance and support lines on the way down. So this fib retracement right here, what I'm trying to measure is, you know, how far down we can go and where Bitcoin will bounce off of, at what price level Bitcoin will bounce off of on the way down. So that is why I set this the top of this fib level here at this major resistance line, and the bottom at the swing low that we had here in the beginning of February. This fib retracement here is just an overall guide, I guess. So this does take into account, you know, the highest high that we've had and the lowest low that we've had recently since after the bull run, right? So this right here is what I consider really ambitious, because at the moment, you know, this high of 20,000 or close to 20,000 is an outlier, right? It's an outlier. It's an event that has never happened before or since. This is not normal, as much as we want it to be. This isn't the normal, but we can still keep this fib as our guide and see actually how far we have to go in order to get to those levels if we do start a bull run at some point in the future. But based on the overall guide that we've set here with this fib retracement, we are currently below the 0.236 level, right? So we're almost at the bottom. We're in between the bottom and the 0.236. So we are a far cry away from even hitting a 0.382 or even a 0.5 fib level, right? Like that would be amazing right now. So you can keep this as your overall guide. I think we are very far away from needing to track this. And what we can do with the fib is track you know, shorter increments on the daily chart or on the 4-hour chart more accurately. So this, to me right here, this fib retracement where we used this major resistance point as well as the resistance of this double top, this is a more realistic scenario. Now, here is what I discussed in the beginning of the video. If we go to the weekly chart, and this is why I called that this situation right here, or the situation that we're currently in, this is why we could possibly call this the new normal, right? And I know that we all aspire for Bitcoin to hit these 20K levels because it's done it before, but it's only done it once. This right here, if this was a statistical chart, this right here would be an outlier, right? This doesn't exist outside of the one time that it's actually happened. Now, in the long run, yes, we might get there again, right? In the long run, maybe end of the year, maybe next year, we might eventually hit 20K levels and past that. We might eventually get to a $50,000 Bitcoin or $100,000 Bitcoin. That's anyone's guess. But the reason I say that this is the new normal is because if you take a look at the weekly chart, which is, you know, pretty long term for crypto, at least, not so much for the equity markets, you'll see that this is the most sideways that we've actually traded since probably August of last year, right? So this right here is obviously a bull run. This right here is a steady decline. This is the most sideways pattern and the longest pattern of sideways trading that we've actually had since I don't know, since August, right? Like maybe you can count this right here because this is about what, 6 or 7 candles. So this right here is probably, and even this, I mean, even this was somewhat of an uptrend, but you would have to go back. My point is you'd have to go back to sometime mid last year in order to get a similar pattern of sideways trading. So in hindsight, right, if this is the longest sideways trading pattern that we've had in a while. It's also the longest sideways trading pattern that has contained the highest range of price values, right? We've never had Bitcoin trade sideways in such a high price range. So the top of this is around 11,800. The bottom is around what, 8150. Right, so we have this price range of between 8150 to 11,800, and we've never had that before. We've had this bull run, we've gone up to 20,000, and then we've had a sharp decline after that, right? So that signifies that this is an outlier here, and until we get to that point again, this right here is not a realistic target at the moment, right? Until obviously the market gives us confirmation, and if we see another bull run after this, then maybe so. But not at the moment. right? So if we trade within the sideways pattern here and we stay pretty consistent for a while, again, this is the weekly chart, not the daily chart. If we stay pretty consistent for a while, that would actually be a good thing because it's actually easy to trade within this pattern, right? You can buy towards you can identify what the low is based on the sideways channel, and you can identify what the high is. And if we break above this or below this, then you have market confirmation that a trend is shifting. Now, again, in the overall grand scheme of things, we might still be in this is obviously the bull run here. We might break out in a bullish reversal, right? So obviously we're in a downtrend currently, but if you notice, this looks like a part of a bullish wedge right here, right? Because you have the bull run that constitutes sort of like this flagpole, and then you have this bullish wedge right here. And what we typically see, what breaks out after this pattern forms, is usually a bull run again, right? So it goes sort of in a zigzag motion, and we've seen those patterns time and time again. Now, the extent of this sideways channel and the breakout period of this possible bull run is anyone's guess. Anybody telling you that they know when these things will happen is, they're lying, or they're taking a wild guess, and just taking the piss, really. But in terms of the pattern that can form, this pattern is very realistic. This zigzag pattern where we have the bull run, we have the downward the declining wedge pattern, and then another bull run that forms after this. But this declining wedge, or this descending wedge, can actually drive us down to the 6,000 levels, can drive us down to the 4,000 levels before running up again. That's anybody's guess, but that's why we have to monitor these things closely and set targets, support and resistance targets, and see where we break out above or below those, and track those from there. One last thing to note, going back to the daily chart. I've said this before, but we have never, in the last few years, we've never hit an oversold level on the RSI on Bitcoin and not hit an overbought level thereafter. If this right here, if we continue to decline and this RSI goes back to the oversold level before going above the 70 to the overbought level, that will be the first time in years, right? And that will be a sign that we're actually losing momentum, and we can expect to either stay within this low range for a while or continue to decline. And this low range, I mean, this sideways trading range right here. So we'll see how that plays out. In terms of trades, currently we are in a dip, but as I've stated before, I like to scale my buy-ins. Now, this is just personal opinion. This is not financial advice, but I like to scale my buy-in. So instead of, holding your money and waiting for the right time to jump in and then throwing 100% of your budget at the current price point, you can make a play here, right? I mean, we're at this 0.618 level, around there. You can make a play here and see how Bitcoin reacts at this level. If it breaks the 0.618 level easily over the next day or two, and especially the weekend is coming up, right? We typically see a weekend dip. Then you can buy back, somewhere between the 0.786 and the 0.618. You can put a larger percentage of your Bitcoin budget in there and continue to scale it as it goes down. And if we have market confirmation that this bearish correction is broken and we are back on our bull run, then you can buy on the way up, right? As long as you buy right at the market confirmation and not buy too high, obviously. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason to rush things. That's how you get yourself in trouble when it comes to trades. That's how you buy high and sell low, really. So yeah, so that's the state of the market currently. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, join the Discord. It's 100% free. I'm on there. If you have any questions about the stuff, ask me or any one of the enlightened guests that we have. And then feel free to come on there and pose your opinion as to what you think is going on with the market. Sign up to the Patreon for the trade alerts and the weekly report. We'll be doing a live stream tomorrow morning. I will announce that on the Discord as well as on Twitter. I will leave those links in the description. Stay safe out there, guys. Peace.